With the chaos of regime change echoing through every hallway of Halas Hall, the scent of transformation in the air so thick you could almost cut it with a cleat. There was never a doubt that Ben Johnson and his freshly assembled coaching staff would arrive with a meticulous list of expectations. And at the very top of that list, right above the schematic installs and positional shakeups, was a singular priority: recalibrating Caleb Williams, not just as a quarterback, but as the gravitational center of a new era in Chicago football. And Albert Breer dropped a subtle yet seismic detail that revealed just how urgent this task has become, shedding light on what this coaching staff needs to see from Caleb, not in Week 8, not by mid-season, but immediately, from the opening gun of training camp. Because they're not waiting for leadership to blossom organically. They're demanding that he walk into the huddle and own it, and that starts with fixing things most fans would never think to look at. Things that separate good quarterbacks from transformative ones, namely body language and pre-snap discipline, which might sound minor on the surface but are colossal in terms of how a quarterback is perceived by the locker room. And according to Breer, the Bears staff showed Caleb film, not just of misreads or poor throws, but of how slowly he picked himself up after getting hit, of how sometimes his posture sagged or his eyes drifted when things went wrong. And to some that might sound overly critical, especially considering the 68 hits he took behind a line that looked allergic to pass protection. But to Johnson and his staff, these aren't just cosmetic flaws. They're leadership tells, signals that ripple through the sideline. And while they understand the physical toll he absorbed, they also know that quarterbacks don't just manage the offense. They manage the emotion of the entire team. So when Caleb gets up slow or looks frustrated or confused pre-snap, it reverberates across the roster, and that's not acceptable anymore. Not when the team is trying to hardwire a new identity built around accountability, resilience, and clarity. Which is why they also highlighted moments where Caleb was clearly confused, like the first play of one game where he turned to the wrong side anticipating motion from the left when it was coming from the right, a mistake that isn't just about direction, it's about preparation. Focus, awareness, and what the staff is saying with surgical clarity is, we don't just want you to survive the play, we want you to control it from the neck up. Because in the NFL, especially in a franchise starving for stability, your quarterback is your culture setter, and this culture won't allow casual leadership or slow-to-rise body language. And while it's easy to empathize with Caleb, you get knocked down 10 times a game and see if you spring up like it's the first quarter. The staff isn't interested in excuses. They're interested in optics. They're interested in modeling. And they're showing Caleb that every shoulder slump and late read and slow rise from the turf is a lost opportunity to galvanize the 10 other guys in the huddle who need to believe, without question, that their quarterback is mentally and emotionally unbreakable. And the truth is, these little details are what separate the merely talented from the mythic, and the Bears are betting everything that Caleb can make that leap. And to do that, they're starting with the little things because little things become habits, and habits define legacies. And it's telling that when they showed Caleb the film and gave him this brutally honest feedback, he didn't flinch, didn't deflect, didn't throw the O-line under the bus. Instead, he embraced it, internalized it, and started putting in the work immediately, and not just during practice hours, but outside the building, working closely with veteran quarterback Case Keenum, a journeyman in terms of accolades, but a goldmine in terms of wisdom, who has become not just a mentor, but a mirror for Caleb, reflecting back everything he needs to see, what film study looks like when done right, how to process defensive disguises before the snap, how to maintain composure when the play breaks down, how to lead even when the scoreboard's against you, and this is where the genius of this new Bears regime starts to crystallize. Because they didn't just draft a generational talent and throw him into the fire. They're surrounding him with veteran voices, smart infrastructure, and a hard reset on what leadership in Chicago should look like. And maybe that's why stories of Caleb watching tape with Keenum long after team meetings end have started to circulate. Or why Caleb's pre-snap communication is sharper, his cadence more confident, his reads more decisive. Because you can see the mental wiring starting to tighten, the fog lifting, the rookie frustrations giving way to something sharper, something more poised, something that says, I've seen this before, I know what's coming. And that mental evolution is exactly what Ben Johnson was hired to unlock, Because he's not just scheming up wide-open throws or redesigning the playbook. He's architecting a mindset, an identity, and Caleb Williams is being forged at the center of it all. And what excites fans, and let's be honest, terrifies every GM in the NFC North, is that despite all the chaos of last season, all the sacks, all the busted plays, Caleb still managed to finish strong, posting over 1,500 yards, 11 touchdowns, and just one interception over his final 7 games. And that was before the staff started rewiring him, before the offensive line upgrades, before the additions of Luther Burden and the ever-versatile tight end turned receiver Sennel Love, before the Bears brought in true offensive adult supervision. And now, with weapons, with a real scheme, and with a mental recalibration underway, the Bears aren't just hoping Caleb Williams becomes their franchise quarterback. They're building him into one with intention, and it's showing, because these aren't just hypothetical improvements or rah-rah offseason talk. These are tactical corrections with buy-in from the player, the coaching staff, and the front office. And the result is something rare in Chicago. Functional alignment, where everyone is on the same page, speaking the same language. And for once, it actually looks like the quarterback position might be a source of strength, not stress. And listen, this doesn't mean Caleb won't make mistakes or get rocked behind the line every now and then. But now when he gets up, it'll be faster, with intent, with presence, with that mental trigger that says, I'm good, let's go. And his teammates will see that, and they'll respond, because body language isn't about vanity, it's about control, and leadership isn't about volume, it's about consistency. And if Caleb can pair that with his arm talent, his creativity, and his natural charisma, then the Bears won't just have a quarterback. They'll have a franchise, a face, a firebrand who defines this generation of Chicago football. And maybe that's what this offseason is really about. Not just a changing of the guard, but a change in tone, tempo, and trajectory, where every film session, every misread, every mistake becomes a teachable moment, a step forward. And Caleb Williams, under Ben Johnson's relentless watch and Case Keenum's quiet mentorship, is transforming before our eyes. And we may look back on these early critiques, these calls for better posture, better pre-snap awareness, better energy, and realize they were the sparks that ignited the entire rebuild. Because when you demand greatness early and often, you don't just raise the ceiling, you raise the floor. And if the Bears keep raising both, then the days of false starts and quarterback purgatory might finally be over.